Once again, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation, Your Recruiting Roadmap. Really excited to have everyone on board. As always, we're really excited to have these webinars each month to give everyone an opportunity just to get a better understanding of the different aspects of the recruiting process. We'll start off just by giving you a little bit of background about myself, and then we'll kind of get into all the different topics of tonight. So for starters, my name is Mike. I'm a senior recruiting analyst here at Sports Recruits. It means I work with student athletes who are looking for additional support in the recruiting process, whether that be with communication with college coaches, the video component of their sport, the ins and outs of the process as a whole, building a target list of schools, anything that student athletes and their families are looking for assistance with. I'm able to provide them with a bit of a direction and making sure they're going about it the proper way. My personal background with sports is coming from looks like someone just said that they're having issues with audio. Can anyone just write in the Zoom chat if they're also experiencing that as well? Just want to make sure everyone is able to hear me, just to confirm. All right. Unless anyone else does write in there, it does look like the audio. It does look like the audio should be working, so hopefully that is the case for everyone here. So just to kind of get right back into that, personal background is I played college football at a small Division III school called Mount Ida College, which is located in Newton, Massachusetts. And I also had the ability to, okay, great. Everyone's saying they can hear fine. Fantastic. Perfect. So played college football, coached at Division II level, and I also worked at admissions for a few years before working here. But in terms of tonight's presentation, we like to call this the recruiting roadmap because we cover a lot of different topics of the recruiting process as a whole. So we want to give everyone a bit of a general idea of, the importance of the online exposure, having access to a Sports Recruits profile like this and how it can benefit your process. One of the main pieces that you want to do is build a target list of schools so you have a general idea of the types of programs that you have a direct interest in and what are going to be some of the more important parameters for you when you are finding different programs that do make sense. Leaning on your advocates, people who you can trust to speak on your behalf or make recommendations for the schools that you're potentially interested in. We'll talk about the video component, obviously a very major piece in a lot of different sports that we work with here directly, and just making sure that you're getting the most out of that as well. Communication with college coaches. We'll talk about some of the important pieces of making sure that you're introducing yourself the right way, times to follow up, just the cadence that you're really looking for more than anything else. And then lastly, we'll get into in-person evaluations, different types of events that you can find yourself in before we get into the Q&A portion of tonight's presentation. And forgive me, I did say the Q&A box. I did say the chat box. Please use the Q&A section for anything that you guys would like to answer questions for. We will do our best to make sure that we can answer everything for you guys there. So appreciate everyone providing that feedback that everything is working properly. So without further ado, let's get into it. And let's start off with the importance of an online exposure. So first off, when you are building a complete profile, that's going to be the most seamless and most streamlined way of making sure that you're giving college coaches access to information that they really need. When you are building a profile on Sports Recruits, that gives college coaches the ability to filter athlete searches and feeds upon the info available, so they can find student athletes based on what year they are, GPA, the position that they play, where they're located, honors, awards, accolades, the background that you have as a student athlete. If you have video available, that's a huge piece because for a majority of the sports out there, having some sort of video that you give coaches an opportunity to review is going to be a major piece of them making some sort of first impression and getting a better sense of what type of player that you are. And then also general interest. So when you are building out a target list of schools, which is something we'll talk about in just a minute here, we give college coaches who utilize Sports Recruits the opportunity to try and find student athletes that have favorited their program. So if you have any direct interest in a school, it's especially important to make sure that you identify that on your profile. That way you are able to get a better sense of what's out there. So you can actually give coaches that heads up. It's not the only thing that we want you all relying on when it comes to showcasing that direct interest, but we definitely want to make sure that you are keeping everything organized all in one place when you are giving those coaches a heads up that you have direct interest in their program. While we move over to that next component, which is building your target list of schools, one of the things that we try and lay out for the families that we work with is there's really 5 major factors that you should consider when looking into schools being a good fit for you or not. Academically is, pretty self-explanatory one. Does the school match with what you're looking for in terms of academic selectivity and course rigor? Does it have the majors that you're interested in? Does it have the certain program that you might want to find. That's going to be something that's going to play a huge piece, and you definitely don't want to sacrifice the academic component of what school that you end up deciding on. So definitely make sure that that's a factor that ends up being, you know, an important piece of what you're looking for. Athletically kind of goes the same way, right? Have you received feedback that you're going to be a Division I style player? Are you comfortable with going to D1 level? But if it is going to take an extra year or two before you get some, you know, considering playing time, is that something that you're going to be okay with, or do you want to have an opportunity to get a chance to get on the field right away? Geographically, distance from home, how far or close do you want to be? Do you want to be in a certain climate? Do you want to have, you know, the family surrounding you? Do you want to be near a big city? These are all things that I think a lot of student athletes out there, they have a general idea of what they want, but they probably haven't sat down and really taken their time to think about some of these things. The best way to get a better sense of the geographic component is going to visit different schools that you have general interest in. Signing up for open houses, signing up for campus tours, doing virtual tours. That's going to give you a really good understanding of, you know, what those schools do provide from a location standpoint. Socially is definitely another piece as well. You know, what is the student population? How big or small is it? Does it offer Greek life? Does it offer volunteer opportunities? How do you want to be involved in your school outside of just being a student athlete in terms of going to class and going to practice? Colleges, me working as an admissions counselor, I learned that it's not just about, you know, having good grades. It's how are you getting involved in the community? Are you someone that is going to, you know, make the school a better place and continue to give to that particular program and give back to that particular campus? Because that's something that's going to play a pivotal role in, you know, how your experience is when you end up at different schools like this. And lastly, financially, of course, that's going to be something that affects every family differently. Are you in a position where you are going to require some sort of, you know, financial aid? Is that going to be need-based? Are you going to be up for any sort of athletic or academic or merit scholarships? Are there grants available to you? So I think those are typically conversations that happen a little bit later on in the process. It's sometimes hard to figure out exactly what that overall tuition price is going to be for each family out there, but it's definitely is going to play a factor. The one thing that I will note is that I think there's a lot of families out there, understandably so. Some college tuitions have really gotten out of control in terms of what that annual tuition looks like these days. Don't necessarily rule out a school based on that number. That's the term that we use for that is sometimes called a sticker price. What that means is that that's what the overall amount is before you factor in any sort of financial aid, scholarships, grants, or anything else that is included. Usually that ends up coming down a significant amount. But yeah, it's definitely an important thing to have a conversation about as a family. And keep in mind that when you are building a target list of schools, we recommend anywhere from 20 to 30 as a good starting point. And that list is probably going to change as you get a better sense of what your interest and what your needs are when you are looking for a potential program. Maybe you end up having, you know, a really big growth spurt and that changes the athletic fit. Maybe you're in a position where you took a vacation somewhere and you realize that's the type of environment that you want to be in geographically. It's not always going to stay exactly the same in terms of when you're looking at these things. But one of the general rules of thumb that we use as well is if you find a school that hits 4 out of 5 of these boxes, that usually means that that's going to be a good fit school for yourself. When you are building a target list of schools, one of the features that you have access to on Sports Recruits here is something that we call our school search feature. And you can find schools based on criteria that whatever you find to be important for yourself. So location, academics, different majors that are available, athletics in terms of like what division or conference that the schools are in. This is really valuable because you probably have some schools in mind. You probably have heard of some different colleges, and those are some schools that you'll add to your favorites list just by typing them in right away. But there's probably a ton of schools out there that do check off a lot of these boxes that are important to you and your family that end up actually being a place you've never heard of before, but then you input some of the information on this search and you realize that there actually is a good amount of information there. So if for those of you who haven't built a target list of schools yet, this is a really great tool to utilize just to try and give yourself a better sense of what exactly is out there. Now, one thing I'll make a note of, that 20 to 25, 20 to 30 schools that you'll put on this list, that's not saying that we're requiring or recommending that you're going to be applying to 20 or 30 schools by the time you get the senior year. We want you to start big and cast this wide net in the beginning, so then it's easier to bring that list smaller and dwindle down as you have a better understanding of the interest that you're receiving, your needs, your wants, and what you want to get out of the college experience. Okay, next up, we'll go into utilizing your advocates. And for those of you who don't know what an advocate is, it's essentially someone who's in your corner, who's willing to speak on your behalf, who's willing to go to bat for you, someone who is going to be a benefit to your recruiting process as a whole. It's something that is impossible to do alone. You need people working with you. Of course, you have your family there as well, and they're advocates in their own right. But from an academic and athletic perspective, what we're referring to are your coaches, your trainers, anyone who's with you every day, seeing you compete in the sport that you love, that you want to continue at the next level. Then on the academic side, your teachers, your guidance counselors, if there's anyone else within the school community that you would consider to be an ally of some sort, those are the types of people you're going to be able to lean on when it comes to identifying schools that make sense. You want to make sure that they know that you have the intention to compete at the next level. You can ask them directly, hey, what do you think my strengths and weaknesses are as an athlete or as a student? What should I work on in the off season? Hey, is there any prep courses or is there anything that you can recommend so I can increase my overall academic profile to maximize my chances of earning a scholarship or getting accepted to some of these schools? And sometimes letters of recommendation for those who have been through the recruiting process or the college admissions process before. Recommendation letters is something that, at the very least, could be recommended if not required. So it's good to just have someone that you are able to lean on in those different situations. I've worked with a number of student athletes who they've been in a position where an athletic advocate has made an introduction to a certain school because maybe they had an older teammate who ended up committing to that program, or the club team that they're a part of has worked with that staff in the past. And that networking is a very real thing in the recruiting process, right? It is, you absolutely don't need that. It's not something that's required by any means, but it absolutely makes the conversation go a lot better when you do have someone backing you from someone who is a trusted source, particularly from a college coach perspective. So if you have those advocates, absolutely take advantage of them. Don't panic or don't worry if they don't have direct relationships or direct, networking opportunities in terms of getting in front of these different college coaches. But at the very least, it's someone who could give you some helpful information and helpful advice when it comes to, here are the types of schools that you're probably in line to focus on right now. If you're looking to get above that, here are the steps that you need to take to make that more of a possibility. Very important piece. We talk about this all the time. Video is something that we always want to discuss when it comes to the recruiting process, because ultimately video is going to be the way that college coaches can evaluate student athlete performance all kind of at the same time. It's changed the recruiting process significantly because college coaches, as much as recruiting events are important, it does give them the chance to recruit from the comfort of their own home. It's most likely going to be the way that you make a first impression with the majority of the college coaches that you're communicating with. And it's also a great way for coaches to track development. If you're someone who has started the recruiting process as early as 9th or 10th grade and you're sending periodic updates to coaching staffs, they're going to be able to see how you have become a better player overall, to see how you have taken strides in certain skill sets or within your specific position. So those are all things that you definitely want to make sure that you go and try and provide when you are putting these recruiting videos together. Which goes into the next slide, which is, what are the types of videos that you should make available on your sports recruits profiles? Generally speaking, highlight videos is probably the most popular type of video that college coaches want to see. That's usually going to be a combination of cut up in-game clips that gives coaches kind of a heads up of the type of player that you are and how you positively impact the game. A skills video is also something that's valuable in a lot of places, but that's going to be more practice-based footage. Baseball and softball is one sport in particular where skills video was very popular for a very long time, where you can record a bullpen session and you can show how hard you're throwing if you're a pitcher. You can take batting practice so a coach can kind of break down the dynamics of your swing. I would say that is a sport where highlight reels have become more prevalent because of websites like Game Changer and just in-game footage becoming more accessible. But skills videos can absolutely be a very valuable piece of information that you add to your profile, because you're able to show that you are training, you're working hard, and you are looking to improve overall as a student athlete on whatever specific skill it is that you're working on. One thing that we really recommend is when you are doing this and when you are providing video to college coaches, you should be the one at the forefront at it. I've definitely have worked with a number of families where, the parents are the ones kind of taking the brunt of, getting these highlight videos together and going through the raw footage and finding clips that you can add to a highlight reel down the road. One thing about being a college athlete is that film review is something that's going to be part of most likely the everyday aspect of being a collegiate student athlete. You're going to be watching practice, you're going to be reviewing your games, you're going to be watching your future opponents. So the more comfortable you can get watching yourself on film now, it's only going to increasingly benefit the type of student athlete that you are down the road as well. This is also something that's going to be really helpful in terms of just getting a better sense of, all right, what can I improve on? being honest with yourself. And if you're not sure where you're struggling, you're not sure how to improve on a certain skill set, that's where your advocates come into play. That's where a trusted teammate comes into play. Get that second opinion to get a sense of, what is this video missing? Yes, it's great that I've shown that I can score goals, and I've shown kind of like the same clip over and over again, but how can I add some versatility to this? I think that the overall length of a video is something that's always going to be an important topic to discuss as well. Generally speaking, right around 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes at the max is what we're looking for when it comes to a highlight video overall. And I would say a skills video is probably going to be more in the area of 1 to 2 minutes, especially if you are working on one skill within that skills video. And then lastly, order matters. It's not a situation where you want to stop and wait and save your best clips for the end. You want to grab and post your best clips, first. Grab the attention of the coaching staff right away. There's no guarantee a college coach is going to last for the entirety of the video that you've put together. So maximize that best clip, those best couple of plays that you've made from your most recent season. Put those at the front of your video, because that's going to be the best way to guarantee, or at least as close as you can to guarantee, that coaches are seeing you at your best. One way that you can utilize and put together highlight reels using Sports Recruits as well is the built-in highlight reel editor. This is something that is really beneficial in terms of providing and cutting clips in a way that makes it easier for college coaches to view. Yes, look, raw footage is great, and that is something that some coaches may request at some point down the road, but you want to make their job easier, make it digestible. So this built-in highlight reel editor gives you the ability for any clips or any footage that you've uploaded to your Sports Recruits profile to go in, cut out individual clips that you have access to, so you make it really easy for college coaches to identify what is there. So I think that is something that is going to be really beneficial. If you have access to raw footage and you don't know where to get started from there, get that footage uploaded to your Sports Recruits profile, and then you can go about cutting the clips and adding specifically the plays that you're involved in, that you're excelling in, and that's how you should get that information out there to college coaches. One thing I failed to do towards the beginning of this meeting, but I noticed that some people may not have a pro profiles that we call on Sports Recruits in terms of having access to everything that is available on the site. We're about to go into messaging and some other components that you may not have access to right now. If you do have a free profile with us, or you haven't made a profile yet and you are interested in learning about some of the different packages that we provide, I just included in the chat, in the webinar chat, all of you can access our a Calendly link that's going to provide you with our recruiting team, our recruiting specialist, I should say, who's going to be able to give you some insight on some different plans that we have, so we can try and put you together with the best fit that makes sense for you. So just wanted to make a note of that before we moved on to the next slide here. So messaging college coaches. Messaging is a huge piece, right? You want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where college coaches are aware of who you are. You want to introduce yourself, and you want to make sure that you're giving college coaches the ability to, get your name out there, and you make that great introduction, right? More often than not, this is going to be the most professional way to get your information out there in front of a college coach. And as I said, one of the benefits of having a pro Sports Recruits profile, you have access to our built-in messaging system, which makes communicating with college coaches as easy as possible. All you need to do is type in the name of the school that you have a direct interest in contacting, and we're going to provide you with the coaches that are involved in that particular program that you're interested in contacting. There might be 3, 4, 5 coaches in some instances. Make sure you reach out to every coach that does populate if that is the case. And the best part about it is this link here that I'm highlighting at the bottom of the screen, with your name attached to it, that's going to be automatically included in every message that you send. So this is how we're able to provide you with the feedback and the notifications of what direct interest that your profile is receiving. So we compare ourselves to the LinkedIn of college athletics, or of the recruiting process, I should say. You're able to kind of stay in the know of who's looking at your videos, who's looking at your profile, who is showing that direct interest. And the best way to drive interest to your profile is by directly contacting the schools that you are interested in. So yes, it's great that sending an email on Sports Recruits is easy, but you probably are more interested in what to say to college coaches as well. So when it comes to, different reasons to contact college coaches, obviously you want to introduce yourself, and you want to be clear, and you want to be specific and personal in why when you have direct interest in that program. But even more so, how can you follow up? How can you keep that communication consistent? If you are attending any recruiting events, showcases, prospect camps, some of the things that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, You want to make sure the coaches are aware that you'll be there. If you've uploaded new video, if you have new academic information, if you have anything noteworthy about your season, awards, accolades, you were named player of the week, you got all conference, always great things to include. And maybe you want to just get some general knowledge about their school, or you want to wish that coach congratulations on a big win or making the playoffs or, whatever achievement they had on their end. So these are just some general ideas of how to just kind of stay in the know with college coaches. I would say one of the more popular questions I get in my role here at Sports Recruits is how often should we be reaching out to college coaches as prospective student athletes? I wouldn't necessarily say there's an exact time frame you want in between each email, but the best rule of thumb we have come up with, as long as you have new information to provide that coaching staff, that gives you the green light to continue with that communication. So again, that might be a couple of weeks every now and again. That might be a little bit longer at certain times. But if you have an event coming up, if you have a new video for them to review, anything that you see here, these are great opportunities to reach out to coaches, even if you don't necessarily get a response to every email that you send out. So not necessarily saying the double text and say, hey, coach, did you see what I sent you last? Have a forward-thinking mindset and just make sure you're giving them new information to provide so they can evaluate you further. And last up, before we get to our Q&A portion, is the different types of recruiting events that you're going to have access to. So we'll just quickly kind of talk about, and keep in mind that some of these terms are interchangeable. So we're just going to use the ones that we have found to be most consistent. A prospect day is typically going to be something that is hosted on a school's campus, where they are going to be the only coaching staff in attendance. They're going to be running the event, and they're going to be evaluating the talent that is evaluating the student athletes that have registered for that event. This is a great way to have more of if you have direct interest in a program, to get a verified opportunity to be seen by that staff. The prices could range. Sometimes they could even be a little bit more expensive if they end up being a 2 or 3 day event. But generally speaking, it's usually going to be one school. Sometimes they'll open it up, but usually this is going to be a chance where if this is a school that you're very fond of and you want to make sure that you're maximizing your potential of being seen in person, that's when a prospect day is really going to come into play. There is going to be a practice component. You are going to probably do some drills and training at some point, but there's usually going to be a scrimmage of some sort that's going to give you a chance to be evaluated, across all the other attendees of that particular prospect day. A camp or a clinic may work a little bit differently, where maybe there's more coaches involved. Maybe it ends up being a little bit longer, but that's going to be more educationally based. So yes, there might be certain aspects where you are being evaluated, but there is going to be a lot more drill work. You are going to be working with college coaches directly on certain skill sets. You're probably going to be you're probably going to break out in specific position groups. For example, I would say lacrosse is on the mind right now. So that would be a situation where, all right, all defensive players over here, all the attackmen over here, all the goalies to this side, and you're going to be working very directly on, I would say like the basics and just like the little things that are going to make you a better player overall. So it is going to be more educationally based, but it usually is a great chance to at least get some face time with some different coaching staffs that you might have some direct interest in as well. Showcases, a little bit different, where it is going to be very evaluation based. And, in some instances, you might have 5, 10, 50. We've even seen showcases with over 100 college coaches in attendance. These are the types of events where, you get more bang for your buck. If you have access to the college coach attendance list prior to signing up, then you can go through that list and say, all right, maybe there is 8, 10, 15 schools that I have legitimate interest in, and that's going to give me a chance to potentially be seen by all of those programs in one shot. So maybe a more cost-effective route, but also keep in mind that there's going to be a ton more competition to work with at these showcases as well. If it's a situation where where you're going to be on a team, it's an individual showcase where you didn't sign up with your team, but you signed up individually. You're going to be put on a team at random, and you're not sure exactly who you're playing with. So it's going to be a different experience overall, most likely. It's definitely a situation where there's a great opportunity for exposure, but it isn't always necessarily the best option for every student athlete out there. So do your research, look at the reviews of these different showcases that are out there, because that's definitely a hot button issue for a lot of families that I work with as well. And last up, tournaments. This is going to be going with your club team, going with your high school team. And, there's not really going to be any educational component to a tournament. There might be some sort of, round robin or some sort of bracket that you're involved in where you're going to have a chance to win the tournament in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you have a guaranteed 3 or 4 games potentially. And then, certain teams will move on and continue playing throughout the weekend. But again, another benefit of going to tournaments like this is that it's probably a part of your club dues in some way. So there might not be anything additional that you have to pay to go to it. And you're going to have a chance to potentially be seen by a lot of college coaches that you have interest in. So the one thing I would say that's that you can utilize for all of these different events is if you signed up for anything that college coaches are going to be in attendance at, make sure you are reaching out before to give those coaches a heads up that you will be there. And if you had any verified communication or you found out that a coach was watching you during one of these matches or tournaments or whatever it might be, make sure you reach out after and thank them for the opportunity. If it was a prospect day, or thank them for coming to watch you play if you received that, if you verified that that was the case at any point during the events. Okay, so we went through a ton of information there, everyone, and thank you for bearing with me as we went through all of that. So just to recap, we talked about online exposure and having a great built-out recruiting profile, and Sports Recruits gives you the opportunity to do that really easily. The different aspects to look in when you are building a target list of schools: athletic, academic, financial, geographic, and just to make sure that you are giving yourself an opportunity to really evaluate all those things, and you can figure out what's most important for you and your family. The different advocates that are available to you and the way that you can lean on those advocates for advice, support, getting a better sense of the type of player that you are, the importance of video in the recruiting process and how you can make sure that you're putting together the best video possible to give college coaches access to, how to communicate with college coaches, and then a quick review on the different types of recruiting events that you could potentially find yourself at over the next few years. So hopefully that was helpful for everyone here. Now we'll move on to the Q&A portion of the conversation. So hopefully that gave you guys a better sense of maybe any general questions that you had up to this point. And once again, I'll make sure to include a link to a calendar that would give anyone who is interested in signing up for any packages. If you currently have a free profile in Sports Recruits, that's going to be the best way to get more information about what is available to you. So it looks like some questions have come in, so I'll do my best to kind of go through all of these now, and then we will see what we can do for you all. Okay, so first question that I see here, someone is asking about when making a video, would you mix highlight reel and skills practice clips together? Generally speaking, I would say you probably want to keep those separate. If you're putting together a highlight reel, you really want to make sure that you have as most in-game clips as possible. And then where more of the skills video is going to be in that practice setting. You're doing the same technique over and over again. Maybe there's a situation where you made an incredible play while making a skills video, and that's something you want to shed some light on. That could be an exception to the rule, but I would say more often than not, you're going to be in a situation where you want to get as much in-game footage put together in your highlight video, and a skills video is going to be very focused specifically on one type of skill that you're working on. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Okay. So someone reached out. If I am a freshman, is it too early to start emailing college coaches if I'm attending their camp and interested in their school? No, it's not too early to start reaching out to coaches during a freshman year, especially if you're attending any camps that they're interested in. Now, keep in mind, if you're a freshman, you might not necessarily be on the list of student athletes those coaches are directly focusing on when it comes to a recruiting standpoint. So, don't be shocked or don't be taken aback if you don't get a reply or you don't get, a view in some way, shape, or form. But at the very least, it's going to be good to kind of get used to what that communication is going to be like. And also, if you are attending a camp as a freshman, you're showing legitimate interest in that school. As long as you stay consistent with your contact over the next couple of years, you're going to show that coaching staff that you have direct interest in their program. So by no means is it too early. I also don't want any other freshmen on the call to think they have to start contacting coaches right this instant. If you have a built out profile, if you have video to be evaluated, those are all the things that I want to make sure that you have access to first, because you want to give coaches an opportunity to look at something before you just kind of reach out and just say you're interested in their school. Give them a chance to look at you if they do take the time to do so. Okay. All right. Ton of questions coming in here. So thank you everyone for that. Someone reached out and said how important are videos for track runners? Probably one of those sports where video isn't as important. If you have it, great, but I would say it's much more about posting verified times for that particular sport. So that's definitely an exception to the rule that we were referring to before. Let's see. All right. Okay. Can colleges see the players' favorites list and rankings? No, they cannot. So when you are building your target list of schools, that is something for your eyes only. They are not going to have the ability to see if you have, a rival school listed above them or anything. That is strictly for you to be, more organized and keep the schools that you have direct interest in just safe in one place. But they will be able to see if you favorited their school, but they will have no access to see any other programs that you have favorited or how you have them ranked on your own list. Let's see. Okay. Got time to answer a couple of more here, guys. And again, thank you for your patience of this. Yes, someone asked about a recording. Yes, there will be a recording of this webinar posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow. Also, anyone who registered for this will automatically be sent that recording. So if you missed anything or you want to review anything that we talked about, feel free to get access to that recording when we send it out at some time tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. Someone is asking about social media in the recruiting process. That is actually a topic that we cover in another webinar as well. So I definitely recommend, if you aren't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, check that out. Go to our YouTube channel and you can find the social media presentation that we've done most recently. I'll make sure to actually head over there right now. So if anyone is interested in looking into that, you'll be able to do so. Okay, just give me 1 second to grab that and we will train access to that here. All right, so what I'm going to send to everyone here now is a playlist of all of our Sports Recruits webinars. So if anyone is interested in that, you will be able to access that whenever you would like. Here we go. Let me just grab the chat box here, and that will be available to everyone right now. So yeah, so that is a link to all of the webinars that we have uploaded to our YouTube channel. There is a social media presentation in there for anyone who is interested in looking for it. Okay. All right, got time for a couple of more here, everyone. Okay. So someone's reaching out about an issue they had about their son making a profile, but it's not saving. My recommendation is, for any technical issues that anyone is experiencing on the site, contact help@sportsrecruits.com. That's going to be our help desk, and they're going to be able to troubleshoot or give you any tips or strategies to try and make sure that you're getting the most out of filling out that profile. So thank you for that question, but our help desk is going to be the best suited to answer those questions for you. Okay. So someone reached out and said, when it comes to messaging, I've been told to individualize messages to each coach in a program. However, the way Sports Recruits works, the message is sent to all of them at once, making it slightly less personal. Do you think that's all right to contact all the coaches? So the way it works on Sports Recruits is you can contact all of the coaches within a specific coaching staff. We're not going to allow you to email blast multiple colleges in one email, because that is where you're going to lose that personalization. Yes, if you have a direct relationship with any of the specific coaches, maybe that's a situation where you contact that one coach individually. But if you're showing explicit interest in a certain program, that usually could be sent to all of the coaches on staff to maximize the amount of eyeballs that are going to see that email that you're sending out. So hopefully that clarifies what we refer to when it comes to sending emails to all of the college coaches that are listed. It is for that particular coaching staff for the sport that you play. All right. Let's go on here. Do some athletes have more than one sport they're wanting to be recruited for? Yes, that is a possibility. It's the way that Sports Recruits works is you would have to have 2 separate profiles for that. So you can just log in, create a fresh account, and then that'll give you the ability to create profiles for if you're a soccer and a basketball player or whatever the breakdown is. So if you are interested in attacking the recruiting process for more than one sport, that is something that is happening for sure. We talked about social media. I'm seeing that question pop up a little bit more. Okay. When do you recommend attending recruiting events? That's a good question. So generally speaking, I would say recruiting events is something that it really comes up to each family to decide what to do. One general rule of thumb I say is, if you're early on in the process, if you're a freshman in high school, I wouldn't necessarily recommend signing up for a ton of prospect camps. Again, you're just not necessarily in that grad year the coaches are hyper focused on. So I think it's more about going for the experience than it is more so about trying to get on the radar of these college programs. If you're in your sophomore year, I would say you definitely are in a position where you're getting closer to those schools, starting to make decisions on your grad year. So you're in the class of 2027 right now. I think you can feel a lot more comfortable signing up for a few more once you get to sophomore year. And that summer going into junior year is when you're going to have a lot more opportunities. So I would say that's the most common situation where student athletes are probably signing up for the most events possible. Okay. Okay, looks like we have a couple of repeats here. I'm going to try and answer one or two more questions here for everyone. And again, thank you all for everyone who is reaching out with these questions. This is a good one. If you have a 3-day tournament after day one, should you email coaches again after doing it before the first? That's not something I would personally advise. If you have access to your schedule beforehand, we typically recommend sending an email surrounding an event 5 to 7 days before if you have access to that schedule. That way, you're on the radar of the coach. You're on the predetermined list of athletes that coach is potentially planning on seeing, and that's going to put you in a position just to make sure coaches know where you are going to be. If there's schedule updates and everything, if a coach is attending multiple days of that event, they will be able to figure out if they don't have access to the most updated version, they will be able to sort that out for sure. Okay. Okay. See if we have what else is coming in here. Sorry, everyone. Just seeing a couple of repeats. Just want to make sure we answer something else. Okay. Excuse me, everybody. Okay. When should I start making a target list of schools? And again, for the record, coaches can't see the other schools that you have on your list, but you should start making a target list of schools whenever you're starting the recruiting process. I would say, in terms of if you just created the Sports Recruits profile and it's totally blank, fill it out with as much information as you have. Get video uploaded if you have access to it, and then before you even consider doing any sort of communication, put together that target list of schools so you at least have a general idea of what schools and what programs you plan on contacting at some point down the road. Okay. And last one here, guys, before we start wrapping up. For tournaments with attendee list, would you email the coaching staff for the entire school or just the coach attending the tournament? I think generally it's still okay to contact the entire coaching staff, but then just make a note in your message. I noticed that Coach Smith is listed to attend this event. I'm excited to be potentially evaluated by them. Here is my schedule for that tournament. Just in case they're traveling, they might not see it. Maybe there's a situation where one of those other coaches can provide that coach, the coach who is going to be attending with that information. So still better to play it safe that way, I would say. All right. I think that is all the time that we have here. And again, thank you everyone for reaching out. Hopefully this was valuable information for all of you here. Unfortunately, if the amount of questions that come in, we just don't have the time to answer every single one. But once again, for those who are interested in potentially receiving more additional support like this at any point, if you're looking to potentially, upgrade your profile, or if you're ever interested in kind of getting more information on certain topics within the recruiting process, just make sure to reach out. Let us know what you're interested in. If there's anything else in particular that you want us to host webinars about, we really like to hear the feedback. So hopefully this was beneficial for everyone who attended. Thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. If there is anything else that we can provide you with, again, reach out to help@sportsrecruits.com and we'll do our best to get back to you with anything that you're looking for. So thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thanks again.